Good morning folks, Mark here from SeaWorld Earth, and today we're talking tripod heads, and in particular tripod heads for photography. Okay, now I've got here with me two different and very distinct models, both from Leofoto. Now this is not a sponsored post for them. I've not been asked by them or paid by anybody to review or to say anything good, bad or indifferent about both of these tripod heads. They're both heads that I have, that I like. And I'm going to just point out a few of the benefits, pros and cons for each one based on my experience and use to date. Okay, so let's get into it. On my right, your left, we have the LH55, this awesome ball head here, and on my left we have this strange looking contraption which is the G4, and this is actually a geared head as opposed to a ball head, but let's get back to basics. Let's just take a look at the needs or the benefits of having a tripod head over just connecting a camera to a tripod, for example. This is the Leofoto LH55. Spin that around so you can see the name. There we go. That is the Leofoto LH55. Now, let's say, for example, if we deploy our camera and we want to take a photograph on a tripod, we want to fix the tripod, but we don't want to have too much problems with sorting out the level, as it were. Okay, so what we can do very quickly, we can deploy a tripod, and irrespective of how the top of our tripod plate is, we can just release a brake on the tripod, on the ball head. Okay, and then we can maneuver this plate, which is where the camera sits, and you've got your spirit level in there. Okay, you can place your camera plate in there, clamp up this Arca Swiss plate, and that holds your camera in place. And then you can set that so that it's level, and hey presto, you can go ahead and take your photographs. Okay, which is awesome. Your camera's level. It just makes life so much easier. And here we are. Look, we're on an angled ground. Okay, but the plate where our camera sits is nice and level. But let's say we want to shoot a panorama. Okay, what we're going to do then? Let's release the brake. Now our camera is nice and steady on this flat plate up here. But what happens when we move our tripod and we want to shoot a panorama? You'll see what happens to that head there. It just starts to get at a very steep angle to compensate for the angle that we offset the ball head, because the base of the tripod head itself is uneven, or it's on an uneven ground. So the further we spin this around in order to take our panorama, the more it's going to fall off of kilter, off of axis, until it comes all the way back to where you initially set it. Okay, and then it's going to be nice and level again. All right, that was only roughly set, by the way. I didn't. So there we go. Okay, so from where I can see, that looks level. Okay, but as you can see, as I spin that around, that top plate there where the camera sits is going to get pretty uneven. All right, now there is a solution, and that solution is quite simple. What I've got here, this is the Leofoto G4. This is the geared head, and this is what's going to be. I'm going to be talking more about this in a short while. But what you'll notice, what I've got here, let's say for example we are on uneven ground again, and I want to shoot a panorama shot. If the base, as we've seen, if the base of my tripod, if the base of the head is off kilter, as I turn through my panorama, my head is going to be, the camera eventually is going to be off of axis, because the level of the tripod head is the base of the tripod head is off level. So what I've got here fitted, which is another little part from Leofoto, is the LB60, I believe, or the LN60, and that is a quick leveling base. Okay, what you can see here when I release this brake here, okay, I have a leeway of about 15 degrees, I believe, in all axes, where I can then use that to fine tune or compensate for any level that is off on the tripod setting itself. So by using a spirit level, which is just here, I can then stand above that. Okay, look over it, and I can see exactly when the base is level, lock that into place, and then voila, I now know that if I was to take a panorama shot, release the base to rotate it there, I know that as I rotate my this head, that the camera is going to stay absolutely rock level, as long as the leveling head at the top here is also level. Okay, and then it's going to be perfect for shooting panorama. In general, this is the Leofoto G4. Now, some people are going to notice, if they haven't already, that this bears an uncanny resemblance to the Arca Swiss D4. Okay, some would say that it is pretty much a blatant copy of that particular item. Now, it is a geared head, and geared head tend to be one of the more desired heads in still photography when you start to get up to the higher echelons of photography, and it's because you can make microscopic changes to the position of your head when you need to make just small adjustments within your composition. And what do I mean by that? The fact that it is called a geared head should give the game away. What you can notice here, there is no kind of like ball structure that you get, especially with the other head, the LH55 for example, where you release a couple of tension locks and all of a sudden you've got that massive maneuverability. On this one you don't have that so much. Okay, once you've set your tripod up, you've leveled the base, what you then can do is you can use any one of three commands in order to get your camera pointing exactly where you want to have it. First of all, I have this clamp at the top here, so I can put my camera in here with the Arca Swiss plate on it, and then just simply close the jaws to keep that in place. All right. What I then have is a brake release over here, so that I can then rotate that top head to wherever I want to have it in the 360-degree rotation of itself. All right. Then what I have a further two brakes. I've got one here, oh, if I can undo it, and I've got one at the front here. Okay, now what happens with these is on this particular axis, for example, that gives me, oops, sorry, that's not locked because of this brake here. Okay, now on this brake here, this gives me movement forwards and back like this here. Okay, once I get to within, or pretty much where I need to be, I can then just lock that in, and there's no more up and down movement on this part of the head. What I can then do is I have this axis here, the rotating axis or swing axis as it were, in order to ensure the level horizon of the camera. So once I'm pretty much ballpark, I can then lock that in, and I no longer have that freedom of movement in the ball head. All right, but what I do have, if I need to make incremental changes to either of those axes just to fine tune my composition, is the gears, which is why it's called a geared head. And if I go with this one here, you can see that I then command the horizon, the level on the horizon. By turning that, you can see the top of the head here changing its attitude, and by twisting this control here, I then control the up and down, as it were, of the main tripod head. So there, once you can see, once you're in a position, you can then adjust, really fine-tune, adjust the position that you have for your composition, which is pretty cool. All right, but that's pretty much it. There's not a lot to this head in and of itself. Some of the finer technicalities of it, its weight, it weighs in at 1.499 pounds or 0.68 kilograms. The overall height is 4 inches, and the base, across the base measurement, is about 6 centimeters. All right. Now, price-wise, this one goes for about $380 US, as opposed to the Arca Swiss, which I believe is significantly higher in price. But like I said, this is a very similar in design to the Arca Swiss, and purists would say that it is a knockoff. But who's to say? I don't want to say anything that may incriminate me. I use it, I enjoy it, and I don't get into the politics of the manufacturers. But there you have it. That is the Leofoto G4. We're going to head out and I'm going to shoot a photograph, a long exposure that I've had in my mind for a while. It's not too far from here, so we're going to go and get packed up and go and check out and see what this bad boy, how it operates in the field. Okay, cool beans. Well, here we are, just a few 100 meters away from the apartment. Blessed to be living in such a place as this. Now, I must apologise, there is a bit of wind around, so if you get that in the mic, I'm trying to shield it as best as possible. Plus I've got my dead cat on, so hopefully there won't be too much wind noise. But anyway, I've come down and I've put my tripod in place. The first thing that I'm going to obviously need to do is to adjust and make sure that the base of my head is flat. And so I'm going to do that by quickly adjusting the leveling base using the spirit level that is right here. Okay, now that that's locked and good, I know that now the platform on which my camera sits and the head is all going to be absolutely rock solid level, so I can go ahead and put my camera on and start to prepare for the composition. One of the features on the 5DSR is that I do actually have an onboard spirit level, so if I turn the camera on and switch over to the spirit level, I can then use that as a guide for the controls to set my composition exactly how I want to have it. Now we're roughly there, but it is quite off to the side, so I've got to bring it back over to the right. There we go. So that's green line now. So I know that that is perfectly level. Okay. What I also want to do is just bring it up a little bit. Get a bit more of the village in the background. That's cool. And also I just want to rotate it just a tiny bit to get one of those larger rocks in on the outside. All right, cool. So that is good. We are good to go. Now, for this particular shoot, I'm going to be using an ND 10,000. It's normal in long exposure ND filter kits to get the ND 1000, the ND 64, and then a soft grad. I'm going to take that a bit more extreme and go with an ND 10,000, which is equivalent to 13.5 stops of aperture light going into the camera. So if my aperture stays the same, the only way once I put that filter on the lens to compensate is to then adjust my shutter speed accordingly. And because we are going to be reducing by such a massive extent the amount of light going into the lens, it means that the offset of that shutter speed is going to be pretty dramatic, and we're talking minutes. Okay, so let's go ahead and get that set up. I'm going to be using the Canny filters along with the Canny filter holder. So this is the adapter ring, which is 82mm default, which matches my lens. So I just need to quickly screw that on. Okay, and then I have the filter holder, which just operates with a little spring mechanism. Put that over the front, and then we're good to go. So that's the filter holder in place. Now, before I put on the ND 10,000, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a soft grad in place, just to take out, or just to be able to keep the nice balance of the sky. And as you can see, we've got some really nice clouds in the mix today. So I'm going to go ahead and put my soft grad in. Going to just mask off the sky a little bit, and I can tell you what, that composition is looking pretty expensive, pretty awesome. Expensive? Who am I kidding? Okay, so I'm going to quickly just focus on where I want to have that set, and that is, oh, let me just adjust a little bit the rotation here. There we go, cool. Awesome. Okay, And so I've got my focus set, so I'm now going to put that back to manual, because once I put this ND filter in, which as you'll see in a minute looks pretty much just like welding glass, there's absolutely no way that the camera is going to be able to focus through that. Okay, so I've set the focus point now in the lens, and I've set that lens now back to manual. Okay, now in order to figure out my shutter speed, and I'm sorry if there's shadow on my face, so I've got my back to the sun. Anyway, you don't need to see me, bulldog chewing a wasp. Keep that picture in your mind, that's what you're missing. All right, anyway, so we want to get the shutter speed because we need to be able to calculate what our extended shutter speed is going to be. So without a filter in place, what I'm going to do is I'm going to meter the composition that I've got now, and then I'm going to get a shutter speed given to me. Now, there are arguments pro and con about the use of apps to figure out a long exposure shutter speed, but when all is said and done, irrespective of the settings or the ISO or whatever used, the calculating factor is the shutter speed. Okay, so I'm going to be shooting at about f11, all right? I'm on ISO 100, and that without any filters in place other than the soft grad, which is going to account for about half a stop, maybe 1 stop maximum. That's giving me a shutter speed of 1/100th of a second, so easy to calculate with. We're going to go ahead and use an app just to configure or to work out what is the shutter speed going to be when I place that whopping ND 10,000 in situation that accounts for 13.5 stops of equivalent light from entering the camera. Okay, let's figure that out. Okay, so based on the calculations from the app, we need to set ourselves a shutter speed of 2 minutes and 58 seconds. But like I said, there's always something I like to do on a shoot, and that is masking tape. You should never leave home without it, boys and girls. One of the most important things a photographer can carry in their bag. Now, when you're doing super long exposures, there's always the potential for light leaks, and especially when you're using filters. So what I like to do is I'll just make a little strip of masking tape, and just put that so the filter goes onto the filter holder there, and it stops light going down in through the top of the filters, okay, and leading to light leaks that way. And then the other area that should be masked over is, of course, the eyepiece. All right, now I know that a lot of manufacturers, they have like this little thing that comes on the strap for the camera. There's a little thing that zips into the eyepiece. Me being a doofus, kind of lost it. But anyway, let's go ahead and get ready for this shot. I think we're good to go. All that remains now is for me to actually hit the shutter, and off we damn well go. Okay, and then the mirror, I could feel the actuation of the mirror when it locked up. So hopefully, fingers crossed, everything should be good. Okay folks, all that remains is just to wait for about 3 minutes until this particular exposure is done. I am going to place the image up on the screen at the end of the video. So before that happens, I'd just like to ask that if you haven't already, to please do subscribe. Hit that notifications bell so that you'll be updated as and when new content is available from yours truly. And hopefully sometime very soon, we will catch up again here at SeaWild Earth. Take care guys and girls, stay safe, stay sane, and above all, stay healthy. Oh, here's the image by the way. Looks pretty cool, right? Bye.